The 1st of September, 1899, Volume 2. Cruel Struggle of Louisa in Order to Obey. It is impossible to separate from Jesus one who is identified with him. Obedience, most powerful warrior, was everything for Jesus. Its office is to give death in order to give life. When the confessor came, he asked me if I had done the obedience. And after I told him how things had gone, he renewed the obedience, that for no reason was I to converse with Jesus, my sole and only comfort, and that I was to drive him away if he came. And so, having understood that what was given to me was true obedience, in my interior I said, Fiat voluntas tua, also in this. But, oh, how much it costs me. What a cruel martyrdom. I feel like I have a nail stuck inside my heart, which pierces it through. And since the heart is used to asking and longing for Jesus continuously, so much so that just as the breathing and the heartbeat are continuous, so does it seem to me that my desiring and wanting my only good is continuous. Wanting to prevent this would be like wanting to prevent someone else from breathing or his heart from palpitating. How could anyone live? Yet one must let obedience prevail. What pain, what atrocious torture. How to prevent the heart from asking for its very life? How to stop it? The will applied itself with all its strength in order to hold it. But since great vigilance was needed continuously, from time to time it would become tired and discouraged, and the heart would make its escape asking for Jesus. In noticing this, the will would apply itself with greater strength in order to stop it, but no, it would very often lose. Therefore it seemed to me that I was doing continuous acts of disobedience. Oh, what contrasts! What a bloody war! What mortal agonies my poor heart suffered! I found myself in such constraints and in such sufferings that I felt my life was leaving me. Yet had I been able to die, it would have been a comfort for me. But no, and what is more, I felt pains of death without being able to die. So after shedding most bitter tears for the whole day, at night time, as I found myself in my usual state, my always benign Jesus came, and I, forced by obedience, said to him, Lord, do not come, for obedience does not want it. And he, compassionating me and wanting to strengthen me in the sufferings in which I found myself, with his creative hand marked my person with a large sign of the cross, and then he left me. But who can describe the purgatory I was in? And what is more, I was not allowed to fling myself toward my highest and only good. Ah, yes, I was forbidden to ask and long for Jesus. Ah, the blessed souls of purgatory are permitted to ask, to fling themselves, to pour themselves out towards the highest good. They are only prohibited from taking possession of him. But no, I was deprived also of this comfort. So all night long I did nothing but cry. When my weak nature could not take any more, adorable Jesus came back in the act of wanting to speak with me. And I, remembering the obedience which wants to reign over all, immediately said to him, My dear life, I cannot speak. Please do not come, for obedience does not want it. If you want to make your will understood, go to them. While I was saying this, I saw the confessor, and Jesus drawing near him and told him, This is impossible for my souls. I keep them so immersed in me as to form one single substance, so much so that it is no longer possible to distinguish one from the other. It is like when two substances are mixed together. One transfuses itself into the other, and afterwards, if anyone wanted to separate them, it would be useless even just to think about it. In the same way, it is impossible that my souls be separated from me. Having said this, he left, and I remained in my affliction greater than before. My heart was beating so very strongly that I felt my chest crack. After this, I cannot explain how, I found myself outside of myself and forgetting, I don't know how, about the obedience received. I wandered throughout the vault of the heavens, crying, shouting, and searching for my sweet Jesus. All of a sudden I saw him coming toward me, throwing himself into my arms, all burning and languishing. But soon I remembered the command received, and I said to him, Lord, do not want to tempt me this morning. Don't you know that obedience does not want this? And he, the confessor sent me, this is why I came. And I, it is not true. Are you perhaps some demon who wants to deceive me and make me fail the obedience? And Jesus, I am not a demon. And I, if you are not a demon, let us make the sign of the cross to each other. So we both signed each other with the cross. Then I continued saying to him, if it is true that the confessor sent you, let us go to him, so that he himself may see whether you are Jesus Christ or a demon. Then I will be sure. So we went to the confessor, and since Jesus was a child, I placed him in his arms, telling him, Father, look yourself. Is he my sweet Jesus or not? Now, while blessed Jesus was with Father, I said to him, if you really are Jesus, kiss the hand of the confessor. In my mind, I thought that if he was the Lord, he would accept the humiliation of kissing his hand, while if he was a demon, he wouldn't. And Jesus kissed it, though not to the man, but to his priestly authority. In this way he kissed it. After this, it seemed that the confessor was pleading with him to see whether he was a demon, and not finding him as such, he gave him back to me. But in spite of this, my poor heart was unable to enjoy the embraces of my beloved Jesus, because obedience kept it as though bound, hampered, more so since there was not yet a contrary order. So it did not dare to pour itself out, not even say a word of love. O holy obedience, how strong and powerful you are! I see you before me in these days of martyrdom, like a most powerful warrior, armed from head to foot with swords, darts, and arrows, filled with all those instruments which are apt to wound. And when you see that my poor heart, tired and down, wants to be cheered, searching for its refreshment, its life, the centre to which it feels drawn as by a magnet, looking at me with 1,000 eyes, you wound me from all sides with mortal wounds. Oh, please have pity on me, and don't be so cruel with me. But as I am saying this, the voice of my adorable Jesus is making itself heard to my ear, saying, obedience was everything for me, and I want obedience to be everything for you. Obedience made me be born. Obedience made me die. The wounds I have on my body are all wounds and marks that obedience made to me. With reason you said that she is a most powerful warrior, armed with all kinds of weapons which are apt to wound. In fact, in me she left not a drop of blood. She tore my flesh to pieces. She dislocated my bones, while my poor heart, exhausted and bleeding, kept looking for relief from one who would have compassion for me, acting with me as more than a cruel tyrant. Only then was obedience content, when she sacrificed me on the cross and saw me breathe my last as victim for her love. And why this? Because the office of this most powerful warrior is to sacrifice souls. Therefore she does nothing but wage a fierce war against those who do not sacrifice themselves completely for her. So she does not care whether the soul suffers or enjoys, whether she lives or dies. Her eyes are intent on looking at whether she wins, because in other things she meddles not. So the name of this warrior is Victory, because she concedes all victories to the obedient soul. And when it seems that she dies, then does true life begin. What greater thing did obedience not concede to me? Through her I conquered death, I defeated hell, I released man from his chains, I opened heaven, and like a victorious king, I took possession of my kingdom, not only for myself, but for all my children who would profit from my redemption. Ah, yes, it is true that she cost me my life, but the name obedience resounds sweetly to my hearing. And this is why I have so much love for obedient souls. I continue from where I left. After a little while, the confessor came, and when I said to him what is said above, he renewed the obedience, that I should continue in the same way. And I said to him, Father, at least allow me to give my heart the freedom to ask Jesus when he comes to me, to let me do the obedience to say, do not come, we cannot converse, and he, do the best you can to stop him, and when you cannot, then give him freedom. End of the reading.
1st of September 1900, Volume 3. Obedience puts peace between God and the soul. Since he was not coming, I kept saying, my good Jesus, do not make me wait so long. This morning I don't feel like getting upset and looking for you so much to the point of tiring myself. Come once and for all, quickly, quickly, as simple as that. And in seeing that he was not coming, I kept saying, it shows that you want me to get tired and even reach the point of getting upset. Otherwise, you do not come. While I was saying this and other nonsense, he came and told me, would you be able to tell me what it is that maintains the correspondence between the soul and God? And I, but always through a light that came from him, said, prayer. And Jesus, approving of my answer, added, but what is it that draws God to intimate conversation with the soul? I did not know what to say, but immediately the light moved in my intellect, and I said, if vocal prayer serves to maintain the correspondence, certainly interior meditation must serve as nourishment in order to maintain the conversation between God and the soul. Content with that, he continued, now, would you be able to tell me what it is that breaks the sweet contrasts and removes the loving discontents which may arise between God and the soul? Since I did not answer, he himself said, my daughter, only obedience has this office, because she alone decides about the things pertaining to me and the soul. And when some contrasts arise, or when some discontent comes to mortify the soul, as obedience rises, she breaks the contrasts, removes the discontents, and puts peace between God and the soul. And I, Lord, many times it seems that obedience herself does not want to meddle in it, remaining indifferent, and the poor soul is forced to remain in that state of contrasts and of huffiness. And Jesus, she does so for a certain time because she too wants to delight in being present at those loving contrasts. But then she assumes her office and pacifies everything. Therefore, obedience gives peace to the soul and to God. Having said that, he disappeared. End of the reading.
The 1st of September 1922, Volume 14. Love rejected turns into fire of chastisement. The soul in the divine will participates in the pains of rejected love. The pain of Jesus of feeling suffocated on the cross. As I was in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus made himself seen all panting and oppressed, but that which oppressed him the most were the flames of his love, which while coming out of him to be released, were forced by human ingratitude to be imprisoned again. Oh, how his most holy heart was suffocated by its own flames, and asked for refreshment. Then he told me, "My daughter, relieve me, I cannot take any more. My flames devour me. Let me enlarge your heart, so as to place in it my rejected love, and the sorrow of my own love. Ah, the pains of my love surpass all of my pains together." Now, as he was saying this, he put his mouth at the place of my heart and breathed intensely into it, in such a way that I felt it swell. Then he touched it with his hands, as if he wanted to make it larger, and he breathed in it again. I felt as if I were about to die, but not paying attention to me, he would continue to breathe in it. After he breathed in it thoroughly, he closed it with his hands, as if he were placing a seal, in such a way there was no hope that I could receive relief. And he said to me, "Daughter of my heart, I wanted to close with my seal, my love, and my pain, which I have placed in you, so as to let you feel how terrible is the pain of constrained love, of rejected love. My daughter, patience, you will suffer very much. This is the hardest pain, but it is your Jesus, your life, who wants this relief from you. Only Jesus knows what I felt and suffered. Therefore, I believe it is better to do without putting it on paper. After I had spent a day feeling I was dying continuously, at night, as my sweet Jesus came back, he wanted again to inflate more the place of my heart. And I said to him, "Jesus, I can take no more. I cannot contain what I have, and you want to add more." And he, taking me in his arms to give me strength, told me, "My daughter, courage, let me do it. It is necessary. Otherwise I would not give you so much pain. Evils have reached such a point that there is all the necessity that you suffer my pains vividly, as if I were living on earth again. The earth is about to unleash flames to chastise the creatures. My love, which runs toward them to cover them with graces, being rejected, turns into fire to strike them. Therefore humanity finds itself in the middle of two fires, fire from heaven and fire from the earth. There are so many evils that these fires are about to join, while the pains I make you suffer flow in the midst of these two fires to prevent them from uniting. If I did not do so, everything would be over for poor humanity. Therefore let me do it. I will give you strength, and I will be with you." While he was saying this, he breathed in me again, and I, unable to take any more, prayed him to touch me with his hands in order to sustain me and give me strength. And Jesus touched me, yes, taking my heart in his hands and squeezing it so tightly that he alone knows what he made me feel. But not content with this, he clasped my throat strongly with his hands, to the point that I felt the bones and the nerves of my throat snap, so much so as to feel suffocated. Then, after he left me in that position for some time, all tenderness, he told me, "Courage, such is the state in which the present generation finds itself, and in all classes. The passions that dominate it are such and so many that the creatures are drowned by their own passions and by the ugliest vices. The rot, the mud is so much that it is about to submerge them. This is why I wanted to make you suffer the pain of suffocating your throat. This is the pain of the extreme excesses, and no longer able to bear the sight of humanity suffocated by its own evils, I wanted a reparation from you. However, know that I too suffered this pain. When they crucified me, they stretched me on the cross so much as to tear all my nerves, to the point that I felt them snap and twist, and those of my throat suffered a greater pain and tearing, which was such that I felt suffocated. It was the cry of humanity, submerged by passions which, clasping my throat, drowned me with pains. This pain of mine was terrible and horrible. I felt the nerves and the bones of my throat, all the nerves of my head, of my mouth, and even of my eyes, being pulled to the point of breaking. The tension was such that every small movement made me feel mortal pains. Now I would become motionless. Now I would writhe so much as to batter against the cross in a horrible way, to the extent that even the enemies were terrorized. Therefore I repeat to you, courage. My will give you strength for everything. End of the reading. There are no more readings today.